it is time to dive right into that wonderful article. I'm going to post that right now for you. And you can take a look and follow along if you are able to. So, without further ado, it is the article of the week. So, the article of the week this week is going to be discussing technology in school. The article title is, Does Using Technology in the Classroom Help College Students? With a question mark. So, the title is begging a question, and it deals with college students, but this is pretty much relevant to all students. So, we're going to get right into it. Almost anywhere in the world, it says, you are likely to find people doing the same thing at eateries and in other public, who says eateries? Other public places, on trains and buses, or wherever else you look. So clearly, I'm just going to start off by saying this is probably not an American article, because there are very few people who are on trains throughout America ever since those pesky robber barons. But this is more of an international article too, which is good. It builds more validity. More and more people spend their day looking at laptop computers, smartphones, or other personal electronic devices, like what, beepers? Not sure what that means, but they are thinking mainly about their electronic devices and not much else. Wow, that's such a jump. I always talk about the sensationalism in articles. I actually just went over an article where we discussed how social media is making students depressed. And this is just one of the things where we can agree on something in kind, but not to the same degree, right? So I always look at it that way. Like, there's information all over the internet. There's information that you're going to get from adults. There's information you're going to get from each other. All of that can be taken with a grain of salt, but particularly from articles where they're looking for clicks and they're looking for people to come back and read and be able to have vehement conversations with each other with, I told you so, and see how bad this is. So, it just seems like it's kind of turning us all into robots that don't care about anything but our electronic device. So I don't agree with the degree. The same can be said about the world of higher education. More and more college students have no problem walking into a classroom and immediately opening their laptops. Others may spend an entire study period with a smartphone in hand. That is true. I mean, I remember when I was even in grad school, I had a mini laptop. It was like this big, and I just popped it open because that's how I did the PowerPoint presentations that we were given, and I would type out the notes. So it actually made a lot of sense, and it made it very easy for me to study later. It was a good time saver, and I type much faster than I write. Also, my handwriting is atrocious, and my typing is much better. I'm working on my handwriting, though, and that's another interesting thing that we can talk about later. Just remind me. So, some people argue that increasing the use of technology can have many helpful effects on society. Duh, calendars. But recent research suggests that using technology during class time may harm students' ability to remember and process the subject material they are learning. Possibly, right? So, Arnold Glass is a professor at the School of Arts and Sciences at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey. So now you know where Rutgers is. If anybody's asking, oh, do you want to go to Rutgers? Where's that at? It's in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Dun, dun, dun. Glass and a student researcher investigated the issue of divided student attention. They reported their findings in the July 2018 in the publication Educational Psychology. That's like a really good article. Like, that's a good journal to put an article in. So the study involved 118 Rutgers students who were taking the same upper-level college class in psychology. Ooh, psychology. Go figure. There's a really awful picture in this, too, and I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, let's dive into what they found. Their performance was measured in a bunch of different ways. It didn't matter whether the students reported they had actually used a laptop or cell phone on the days that they showed that the students performed more poorly on questions covering material taught on the days they were permitted to use the technology. So here's the setup. You had a bunch of students, not a bunch, 118, not a great N. We talked about this before, but always look at the number of people in the study and what demographic it is. This is a very, what you would call a limited sample size. So what that means is there are only 118 students in one college, and in that one college, they all took the same psychology class. So that's great in terms of you can make sure that you don't have a whole lot of factors that are going to interfere with your results. What they call confounding variables. You don't have a lot of that. But at the same time, what's called ecological validity? In other words, how does this relate to the real world? Because this study is in such a small, specific group of people with such a small, specific area. psychology in one college. But you find this in so many studies. And the fact that this is in a major publication like Educational Psychology, that's the flagship for the School of Educational Psychology. This article's in here in July of 2018 with such a small N and such a small sample. I would be very careful to make serious determinations and conclusions definitively based on this information. However, take it with a grain of salt. It's still information. So what they found was on the days where these 118 students were allowed to use technology in the classroom, they did poorly versus, like, statistically significantly less well on answering material on those days than on the days where they didn't have the devices in front of them, whether or not they were using them. So then they go into how this is by no means the first or largest study to look at the issue. So they even know that it's a small study. They might be buying things online, reading unrelated materials. For example, they're not thinking deeply about subject matter. So, I mean, really what it sounds like is distraction. So we could extrapolate that out to anything that's distracting. The kid that's next to you, that's hilarious, but always talking and kind of always just like, that's really going to distract you. It's going to make you do poorly in that class. Think about that for a second. This is actually really important information. The best person that you have sitting next to you in class is probably the reason why you're not doing as well in that class. Eek. So, think about that. Being distracted is not good. Even though a few minutes later they know what the professor said, a week later, if you ask them, all they remember is that they were in class a week ago. They no longer remember what the professor said because they eliminated the opportunity. And that's what distraction causes. And not just distraction like squirrel, but distraction like I am going to get information right here and be reading it or looking something up and like typing things out and, I'm going to watch this video and, there's this advertisement talking about things. That's all well and good, but now I have no idea what you said. What did you say? Oh, you didn't say anything. That's because you're not talking. But if you're doing that while I'm talking, you're not absorbing it. I guarantee you. So put the phone down, unless the phone has me on it and you're watching this using our handy dandy mobile friendly system, in which case don't put the phone down, but stop having it in the minimized window in the bottom and going on Amazon to shop for curtains or something. Why are you buying curtains anyway? Well, that's weird. Seriously, why are you buying curtains? No, nothing? We should talk about that later. That's a one-to-one right there. So anyway, this is talking about how that's really not good for students. Let's talk about how that extrapolates into other things. Students would be looking at their laptop and would suddenly smile. And it wasn't because there was anything funny happening in class. What I realized very quickly was these students were on social media and that's what they were smiling about. Ooh. And over time, as this increased, I just felt like I no longer had the attention of my students. So you ever wonder why your teacher flips out once in a while when they see like you're on your phone? You know that you look slick, like you look really good, and then all of a sudden they flip out on you and they say they're going to take your phone. Everybody knows what you're doing. You're not that slick. Trust me. Everybody's doing it too. So they look at like 15 kids and they're all doing the same thing. They get mad. And that's why they yell and say all kinds of things. So that just, again, food for thought. Think about that. You're busted all the time. They just don't always say something about it. So even if technology is helpful to some students, which there is research that suggests that, there are times when it needs to be turned off as it may harm others. In 2013, researchers at 2 Canadian universities reported that laptops not only harmed the academic performance of users, students without computers were also distracted. And as a result, they suffered academically. See, you're ruining everything. You're ruining everything. It's not just, it's your friends and people who aren't your friends and those snoopy people getting all in your business. They're like looking at your stuff like, oh. And then you look back at them and go, how did you get a Darth Vader mug? Everybody's confused. And then nobody knows what he was talking about. It was about a biology thing because you were in biology, just so you know. So designing instruction in a way that gets students to engage with that material more would be a better solution than to ban laptops, because technology in general is not the only way that students find to distract themselves in class, said this person that I cannot pronounce their name. But this is exactly what I was saying. It's really more about distractibility. Distractibility is a big problem. And why distractibility is a big problem is because you're there for a reason. You're there to learn about a specific subject, like whether that's English or that's history or that's math, like whatever it is. You're there to learn about A, and you're looking at B through Z. And sometimes it's because it's so boring. It's just so boring. So what do you do? How do you fix this problem? What do you do about the fact that school can be boring and your phone is never boring, or most of the time it's not boring? I mean, sometimes, honestly, my phone's pretty boring. I have a pretty cool phone, but sometimes YouTube is dry, and like my social media pages are dry and it's boring. So then I find something else to distract myself, right? No, getting focused is a skill. It's hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to sit there and say, oh, well, I think that I'm going to do the thing that I don't want to do, and I'm going to not do the thing that I'd really prefer to do. I mean, how many times have you said that to yourself today, this week? Honestly, like if you were to measure how strong you are, if you were to measure how good you are at this whole school thing, how many times have you said no to yourself without somebody else prompting you, without there being some kind of punishment outside of yourself, when you had the choice? How many times have you said to yourself, you know what? No, I'm going to get better at focusing and doing something I don't want to do today. So I'm not going to give in to just doing the thing that I want to do right away and having instant gratification. How many times have you said that to yourself ever? That's strength. That's actually a skill. That's one of the number one indicators that you're going to be very successful in your field. Like anything that you do, if you're the one that can pay attention and you're kind of like obsessed with it, like I am with this stuff, I'm reading articles and I'm going online and I'm posting these things and I'm talking for hours at a time every day about this stuff, instead of, playing on my Nintendo Switch or doing something that is entertaining. I actually am kind of obsessive about this stuff. That's what makes you an expert in an area. That's what makes you better than your peers in your field, because anybody can show up to class. And this is not just, I'm not picking on you and I'm not picking on high school. I'm just saying, as you go forward in your classes and in college, you could sit there and anybody can show up to class and do this. Yeah. No, I am. What did you say? Yes. That's that cellular thing. Respiration, cellular respiration. Ha. Yeah, I got it. See? I'm paying attention. Anybody can do this. That's really easy. And most people do. And remember that the goal here is not to get by, because you can get by, but everybody gets by. The majority of people just get by. It's the ones that are doing more than just getting by. Those are the ones that are wildly successful. I'm always going to bring this up. The difference in adults that I work with between the people who are okay, they do all right. I'm not even talking about this bottom part where everybody stacks up at the bottom, where that's 40% of the people in the world. Well, not even in the world, in first world countries, 40% stack up down here, not doing great, paycheck to paycheck, struggling, don't have a whole lot and don't have a lot of choices, not really free. This group of people, so this 60%, from here to here, these people are you just sitting in class and kind of like reading whatever and getting distracted and talking to whoever and getting by and doing okay on your tests and quizzes, but not really spending a lot of time trying to enrich yourself. You guys are all here. The ones that I see that are very successful, which is the very small top. And I don't mean, I'm not talking about the richest 1%. I'm talking about that people who are doing great in life and just loving life and really getting the most out of their career, getting the most out of their relationships, and just getting the most out of life in general. They're the ones that are engaged in life. And that's a skill, to stay engaged, stay focused. Not all the time. Nobody's focused all the time. There's a guy, I was just talking to someone who's never seen this person really focused and engaged. And that's most of the time how I see them. But, they've never seen this person act seriously. They've only seen them goof off and act like wacky and weird. And they said, how are they successful? Because the guy's really successful. He's really wildly successful. Very happy, has a great life. And I said, well, because he's never like that. He's only like that when he hangs out with us, but he hangs out with us 1% of his time in his life. The 99% of the time he's probably, well, not 99, he's probably 90% of the time he's focused. 10% of the time he's a goof off. Me too. If you went onto my other page, my Defeated by Delicious Fruit Pies page, you would see I goof around. I have fun. I just talk about nonsense things, and it's not stressful. But, most of the time I'm focused and I'm working on what's important to me. And if you don't like what you're doing and you don't see the value in what you're doing, that is really near impossible. That's why I talk so much about having purpose, focus and value in what you're doing and finding what you gravitate towards and that you inherently see as important, like the point of life, the point of existing. Because otherwise, man, it gets hard to focus and stay focused when you don't really want to be able to say no to yourself sometimes and yes to success. Wow, that sounded corny. Anyway, so that's really what this is talking about, is not being distracted and really just not getting yourself to lose opportunities to know the information. Here's the big benefits of this, and here's where I can hopefully kind of hook you guys in on this. The more you're not getting distracted in class, the less you have to study when you're not in school. So you could take 6 hours in your day and turn that into the 6 hours that you're learning, or you could do this for 4 out of the 6 hours. And now just to get the same grades that you were going to get, you're going to have to spend 4 hours outside of school. Which would you prefer? I'm not even going to wait for you to answer that question. I know which one you'd prefer. Save yourself some time. Focus while you're in school. Goof around when you're not in school. I'm going to be posting probably online on YouTube. We have a college success coaching YouTube channel, and I'll probably be posting very soon the article where I talk about how to not be a slave to social media. So between that, the last week's talk where I talk about the tool to actually use to get yourself more time, and by focusing when you're in school so you have more free time for yourself after school, that's a wild combination. You put those all together and you've got a lot of free time on your hands. It's a lot of time to goof off or figure out what's important to you and then, focus on that and be wildly successful. Whichever. But this has been the article of the week. Did you like that video? Did you find it interesting? Do you want to find out more about how to get more out of life? That's a lot of mores, and we can do even more than that. So if you would like to check out our website, www.collegesuccesscoaching.com, you can see what it's all about. I answer live questions every week. I have videos with experts in all kinds of fields that can help you to learn more about what they do and what you could be doing, and even more. We have resources on the website. It's a blast. So go ahead, check out the website. It's risk-free. 2 weeks on me. You're welcome. And otherwise, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you can get all these article reviews, as well as every once in a while, I'll do a live Periscope where I'll answer any questions anybody sends me throughout that time. So keep on keeping on. We'll see you soon.